This is the story of Mirai Kakehashi, arguably one of the most uninspiring and pathetic protagonists. After suffering years of abuse from his cruel aunt and uncle, Mirai's answer to his misery is to attempt offing himself by jumping off a building. Instead of facing his problems or even trying to escape in a meaningful way, he decides to give up entirely. Mirai is quickly saved by Nasa, a disturbingly cheerful angel who not only rescues him from death, but also gifts him powers that make him a god candidate. But even with this newfound potential, Mirai still manages to be utterly unimpressive. We begin with a somber tone as we are introduced to Mirai Kakehashi, a high school student trapped in endless and utter despair. His face is emotionless as he prepares to attend his junior high graduation ceremony. However, unlike other students who are excited about their future, Mirai is completely indifferent, reflecting his inner turmoil. He gazes blankly at the people around him, hearing their excitement but feeling none of it himself. As Mirai walks home, it becomes clear that his life is devoid of any joy or purpose. His parents and younger brother were killed in a car accident when he was younger, and since then he's been forced to live with his abusive aunt and uncle. The emotional and physical abuse he suffers at their hands has crushed his spirit, leading him to believe that his life holds no value. With no one to turn to and no hope for the future, Mirai decides to take a drastic step. He climbs to the top of a tall building, intending to end his life. As the wind blows, he contemplates his existence, thinking that death is the only way to escape his unbearable pain. Without hesitation, Mirai lets himself fall, closing his eyes and preparing for the impact. However, instead of hitting the ground, Mirai finds himself floating in midair. Confused, he opens his eyes to discover a mysterious figure, an angel with bright, white wings. The angel introduces herself as Nasa, telling Mirai that she saved him from death because she wants to make him happy. She explains that it's not yet his time to die, and offers him a second chance at life, free from the despair that has consumed him for so long. At first, Mirai is skeptical and unsure of Nasa's intentions. She appears to be a kind and gentle being, but Mirai questions whether such a being truly exists, or if he's imagining things due to the trauma of his life. However, Nasa insists that she is real, and to prove her power, she offers Mirai two extraordinary gifts. The first gift is a pair of angel wings, which allow Mirai to fly anywhere at incredible speeds. Nasa demonstrates their power by giving Mirai the wings, enabling him to soar through the city, free from the constraints of gravity. Mirai is overwhelmed by the sensation of flying, something so far removed from the hopelessness he felt moments earlier. He speeds through the air, exhilarated as if all the burdens of his life are temporarily lifted. The second gift is far more dangerous. Angel arrows. Nasa grants Mirai the ability to use red arrows, which allow him to make anyone fall madly in love with him for 33 days, obeying his every command. She explains that the arrows are a powerful tool for manipulation, and Mirai can use them to bring happiness into his life. There is also a white arrow, which instantly kills its target without causing pain. Despite the incredible powers offered to him, Mirai is hesitant. He doesn't want to control others, and more importantly, he doesn't believe he deserves happiness. However, Nasa insists that he has the right to be happy and free from the misery forced upon him by his cruel relatives. The angel reveals that the people responsible for his family's death are none other than his aunt and uncle, who staged the car accident to claim his family's insurance money. This revelation fills Mirai with shock and anger and shows that he isn't just a weakling. For years, he had believed that the car accident was a tragic twist of fate, but learning that his relatives orchestrated it to enrich themselves leaves him devastated. Nasa, just like an evil demon, encourages Mirai to use the red arrow to compel his aunt into confessing her crimes. At first, Mirai is unsure if he should wield such power, but his anger drives him to confront his aunt. He shoots her with the red arrow, causing her to fall hopelessly in love with him just as Nasa promised. Under the influence of the arrow, his aunt reveals the truth about the car accident, admitting that she and her husband conspired to unalive Mirai's parents with Truck-kun for money. The weight of this confession crushes Mirai emotionally, confirming that his entire life had been shaped by their betrayal. In a final, dramatic moment, Mirai's uncle walks into the room, shocked to find his wife acting strangely around Mirai. Nasa urges Mirai to kill him using the white arrow, but Mirai hesitates, unwilling to cross the line into murder. Instead, his aunt, now overwhelmed with guilt from the red arrow's effects, decides to take matters into her own hands. She sets the house on fire and cooks herself and her husband in a murder-suicide. Mirai stands outside the burning house, shaken by the events but now free from the abusive relatives who ruined his life. Nasa reassures him that this is just the beginning, and from now on he has the power to shape his own destiny. She then reveals the true nature of the situation. Mirai is one of 13 candidates chosen by angels to compete for the role of God, with the winner taking over the role of the current god when they retire in 999 days. At the same time, we see a red car with a fatty inside, surrounded by his harem. His door opens, and we see Metropoliman attack him with a white arrow. Back to Mirai, who is horrified by the idea of being thrust into a battle for godhood, but Nasa insists that he deserves to live a happy life. God addresses a group of angels. He states that he has tried hard to make the world better for humans, but now it is time for him to relinquish his throne. The group of angels is revealed to be the 13 angels, and that they are in charge of choosing God candidates. They also have the responsibility of guiding the God candidates. God states that they have 999 days left. Back at the motel, an utterly confused and clueless Mirai Kakehashi ponders the existence of God candidates. With a slight smile, he concludes that if there's an angel standing in front of me, God must exist. Before Mirai can lose hope, Nasa explains that becoming a god candidate would be Mirai's best course of action. She reasons that this would give him free access to the wings and arrow and would lead to greater happiness. Mirai considers that and retorts that he has no intention of becoming a god candidate. However, he agrees to become a god candidate for the stupidest reason, which is that he can turn his uncle into the police. Mirai turns on the TV and a news report about Tonma Rodriguez and his love life. Tonma confirms that he is dating 5 hentai-inspired women simultaneously. Mirai notices that there's an angel looming above Tonma, suggesting he's a god candidate in possession of the red arrow. Mirai and Nasa both come to the conclusion that the women have been hit by the red arrow. Mirai shows concern for the women and asks Nasa if there's any way to defend from getting hit by a red arrow. Nasa is shocked over the fact that she hasn't explained that to Mirai yet. She tells him about 3 rules. Wings are faster than arrows and can be used to dodge arrows. The time limit for the effect of the arrow is 33 days, and a person can only be hit by the arrow once. In a van in an empty parking lot, a butt naked, Tonma sits as a dozen unclothed women simp over him. The door opens and a person in a mechanical suit leans in. They extend their arm forward and launch a white arrow at Tonma. This kills and launches him out of the van. The man stands over the dead body and states that he only got a red arrow. The women, now released from the effects of the red arrow, run away in shock. The man in the mechanical suit watches over the scene disapprovingly. As Mirai is walking away from school the next day, he checks his phone to see a news report about Tonma's death. Luta returns Tonma's body, commenting on how interesting the candidate that killed him is as he does so. Nasa, being her cheerful self, tries to unsuccessfully convince Mirai to cheer up as they go shopping for school. Eventually, they both walk onto the scene of a bank robbery. Things start to seem dire as the criminals barricade themselves in with hostages. Suddenly, the man in the mechanical suit appears from the sky. Some of the crowd remarks that he looks like the popular character, Metropoliman. Mirai sees that he has wings and comes to the conclusion that this is another god candidate. Metropoliman flies up and strikes the police officers with red arrows, compelling them to believe in him. He then walks up to one of the criminals and shoots them with a red arrow. He convinces them to turn themselves in, but is stopped as another criminal shoots a gun at both of them. Metropoliman dodges, but the first criminal is killed. Angered by this, Metropoliman flies at the second criminal and shoots him with a white arrow, killing him. While giving a statement to the press, after the confrontation, Metropoliman, with skills that can win an Oscar, fakes innocence and pretends to not have meant to isekai the criminals. Mirai and Nasa doubt this. In a different room, an angel watches the broadcasting of this interview. He then declares a confrontation with the remaining 11 candidates. Mirai, panicking, tells Nasa to move away. Mirai slowly moves away from the crime scene. At Mirai's house, Mirai demands Nasa to remove his arrows and wings so that he is no longer a god candidate. Nasa says that she cannot do this as this will lead to Mirai's death. Mirai then asks her to explain the ranking system of angels. Nasa explains that the special rank gains red and white arrows as well as wings. First rank gains red arrows and wings, and second rank gains wings or red arrows. She also explains that while only 3 special ranks probably exist, angels can get promoted or demoted in ranks. Mirai considers how much of a threat Metropoliman is before Nasa reminds him that he has the school opening ceremony tomorrow. Mirai, although troubled at first, decides to attend school as he cannot pursue happiness cooped up inside a house. The next day, Nasa teases Mirai about going to high school. She says that he only joined so that he can be close to his crush. Saki Hanakago. Mirai seems embarrassed at first, but reiterates that he will not use the red arrow on her. When he reaches school, he is shocked to see an angel standing above the courtyard watching. Before he can get away, the angel moves up close to his face and stares at him. He is shocked. The angel explains that if he can see him, it means he is a god candidate too. Mirai is sweating buckets, as the angel then tells him that there is another candidate in the school who is behind him. Mirai looks back, and the love of his pathetic life, Saki, standing behind him. She shoots him with a red arrow, which then makes him in love with her. As he grabs his chest, shocked that Saki is a god candidate like him, he realizes the arrow might not have the same effect since he already has feelings for her. Saki asks him if he has wings, and he replies like an obedient puppy. She then tells him to fly to her room and wait for her there, making sure nobody sees him. He obeys her and flies away, blushing like an idiot. Mirai arrives in her room and looks around, taking in the grandeur of the place. Just then, Saki walks in and regards him with her angel. Saki's angel Revel starts interrogating him about the class of his angel and then realizes that he will be useful. He then tells Mirai that he will be Saki's wings, and he agrees without even skipping a beat. He is then directed to interlock hands with her and bond the rings on their wrists so that he can fly with her. They step to the balcony and they launch into the sky. As they fly, Mirai, like the hopeless simp he is, smiles and blushes recently. Saki says she is happy they got the chance to talk, as she was sad before, and obviously Mirai is elated at that news. He then says he'll take her somewhere special. They land back in the room, and a notification is received that Metropoliman just caught the slasher. Revel explains that God selection was usually a careful evaluation of the character and behavior of the candidate, but Metropoliman disagrees and has already gotten the people and police on his side. Revel says he fears that he'll come for Saki soon with his white arrow. Mirai is immediately on the defensive and says he'll confront Metropoliman. Revel encourages him, and when he steps out, Nasa shows up. She tells him that she got worried when he didn't come home, and she confronts Revel about how he intends to manipulate Mirai into getting in danger. She then tells him about how Revel is the angel of trickery and how it must have been part of one of his plots. Saki steps forward and tells him not to go, which most definitely makes Mirai's heart warm up. Nasa then suggests that they team up, and Revel raises the point that they can't trust him. However, Nasa says they can, since Mirai has always liked Saki. A criminal is being chased by the police when Metropoliman flies and catches up to him and then shoots him straight in the chest with a love arrow, which then makes the criminal stop and turns himself in. Metropoliman then flies to his not-so-evil-looking lair. There he discusses with his angel how he plans to lure out the remaining god candidates and unalive them so he can become god. 33 days later in Saki's room, Mirai is tied up, and they check to see if the arrow's effect has worn off. They discover, just like he had said, that Mirai is still acting the same because he has always had feelings for Saki. They receive a ping that Metropoliman is offering a truce at Jinbo Stadium and is inviting all the god candidates to come so that they can have a discussion. They consider it and decide not to go because it's clearly a trap. The idiots eventually go to the stadium with the lame reason that they will be able to observe him better if they're there. Outside the stadium, there is tight security, and inside there's a decent crowd who eagerly await the arrival of Metropoliman. Mirai and Saki deliberate on what to do and how they need to remain anonymous so that they won't get spotted. They covet their bonded rings too, so that no one will see them. The audience does a countdown, and Metropoliman lands in the center of the stadium. Metro Blue and Yellow show up too, which makes the crowd go wild. Blue swoops down and shoots at Metropoliman with a red arrow, but it doesn't pierce him as there is friction blocking the arrow. This shocks Mirai and Saki, who have no idea what's going on. The two idiots discover they've been drawn into a trap and decide to be on the defensive. They soar back above the stadium with their backs to each other and look out for the real Metropoliman. There's a flashback about both of them not being able to get into college because they're both pathetic losers who flunked their exams. They sit together and talk about how they want to both unalive themselves. Yellow then tells Blue that he has drugs that can arrange it. However, when they are trying, Blue ends up puking his guts out before, and two angels appear and bestow them with arrows and wings. They are happy and decide that their lives can turn around thanks to the powers they now have. Back in the present, they discover that the Metropoliman has actually set up the entire thing, and that the person in the Metropoliman suit is a decoy. They go on about how they've discovered his plan and everything, explaining like a couple of unpaid detectives. They call out Metropoliman, but he appears on the big screen and tells them they did well, but he says there's no need for him to do anything anymore, so he waves them by and the screen goes off. As they are about to leave, a young girl comes whimpering and says she's scared of Metropoliman and wants to join them for protection. She explains that she only has wings and just started enjoying her life. Blue and Yellow consider this and decide to accept her on the condition that she lets them shoot her with a red arrow. She agrees and flies towards them with her hands raised as instructed. Unfortunately for the little girl, Metropolitan swoops in like a hawk and takes her away, stabbing her with a red arrow before anyone can react. He then zips away and is projected back on the screen. He reveals his plans and says he's done and that Yellow and Blue should leave before they become the next victims. Blue and Yellow reconsider and call out for help to any of the god candidates available, saying that if they team up, they'll be able to take down Metropolitan once and for all. Saki and Mirai watch as the events unfold, but remain seated because they think it'll be too dangerous. As Yellow and Blue keep asking, Green and Pink show up from the stands and say they're willing to join forces. They allow themselves to be shot with red arrows. They come forth with their hands raised and are shot successfully with the red arrows. Now there's a ridiculous squad of Metro men on the pitch. Again, Saki and Mirai consider joining forces with the others, which would make it 6 against Metropolitan. However, as they are still contemplating, the screen lights up and the abducted little girl says Metropolitan has something to say. It is revealed that Metropolitan swapped places with the fake him, and he then proceeds to isekai Blue with his white arrow, and then shoot Yellow with his red arrow. The effect of the red arrow on Green and Pink wears off immediately, and they go back to their regular selves. The whole stadium is shocked at what is happening, and some of them don't even believe that Metro Blue is actually not alive anymore. Metropolitan explains that he swapped places when he flexed earlier to snatch the little girl. He explains that Pink and Green are just pawns that he hired with money. As he talks, the Angel of Metro Blue tries to take his powers, but Metropolitan talks down on her and says she should leave everything as they now belong to him. He talks about the limits of the red arrow as he chains Yellow and the little girl to a pole. He threatens Yellow with the white arrow, which makes him struggle to escape, but his handcuff doesn't let him. The crowd watches in horror at the sight, but Metropolitan shoots him down and unalive him. Over at Saki's place, Revel wonders if Mirai will be okay because he might want to interfere and save the girl. The crowd still watches with uncertainty and wonders if it's just acting until the girl starts to panic and scream, begging for her life. Metropolitan challenges the god candidates and asks if they'll all watch as he kills her. The girl's angel even comes out and starts begging any of them to step in and save her while she cries. Thanks for joining us on another adventure, my fellow weebs. If you enjoyed this episode of Weeb Tunes, make sure to smash that like button and leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel.